have to stop pandering to the far left, citing trans rights as an example, saying, I don't want to discriminate against anybody, but I don't think biological boys should be playing in girls' sports. And a few things about that. First, if what you want is a centrist campaign that's quiet on trans issues, tough on the border, distances itself from Palestinians, talks a lot about law and order and reaches out to moderate Republicans, that candidate existed and she just lost. Guess how many trans speakers there were at the DNC? I'll give you a hint. It is a very round number. Also, I'm not sure how you reach out to moderate Republicans more than appearing with Liz Cheney multiple times, unless you literally dig up Henry Kissinger's corpse and prop it up at a rally in Michigan as Katy Perry sings Rolling in the Deep. It's okay not to have the range for a song, Katy.
The irony is the Republican anti-trans ads were not a key motivator for people going out to vote. Okay? It just wasn't. Like, it is not in the top 10 things that people voted for. The number one thing is the economy, okay? People thought that Donald Trump was going to be anti-war. They're stupid, but who cares, okay? People are stupid enough to think that Donald Trump is actually going to fix the economy. People are stupid enough to believe the crime narratives that immigrants are causing, okay? The reason why people say the anti-trans ads were effective is because they're just like looking for something to blame. And there aren't that many fucking trans people to begin with. And there certainly aren't many trans content creators or like trans consultants that are going to come out and be like, that's fucking bullshit. No one talked about trans people. That's it. Trans people are utterly defenseless. Okay. There's no one going out to bat for them. And that's it. That's it. So it's an easy target to lie about. The problem is, if the Democrats put up a fight on the economy, okay, if the Democrats actually gave something that the Republicans had to address and fight back against, then this trans shit would be even less motion. It would have even less motion than it did. But you will never be able to convince people. Uncle Cenk thinks that that's not the case. Virtually every fucking Democrat right now, is like running the trans people cost us the race route. You know what cost the race for Kamala Harris? Infinitely more than trans people, which the media is not addressing at all. Gaza. Every moment that you talk about trans people is a moment you don't have to talk about Gaza. Every moment that you talk about trans people is a moment you don't have to address the awful campaign you ran. That's it. You didn't split from Biden on Gaza or at all. And there you fucking have it. I mean, look. A reminder that this happened during the Democratic primary, and it was a massive warning sign that the Dems actively ignored. We do not know what percentage still voted for Harris, Trump, or third party, or didn't vote at all, but these people were mostly registered Democrats activated enough to participate in the Democratic Party's primaries when there was no one else running against them. And at the time, I said over and over again, the real uncommitted voters are just simply not even going to vote. They're not going to show up come November. So what you see in the party's primaries is the most active base of support for the party. So what you see in the primaries is going to be fucking 5x in the general. Primary election uncommitted vote. Michigan, 101,000 votes. General election, number of votes Harris lost by, 71,700. Wisconsin, primary election uncommitted vote. Voters who withheld vote due to Gaza genocide, 47,800. General election, number of votes Harris lost by, 33,000. Pennsylvania, primary election uncommitted number, 120,000. General election number of voters Harris lost by, 134,000. And once again, I remind you that it's not going to be a perfect number. It's actually significantly more people who then didn't go out and vote. The real uncommitted people simply just don't vote. These are people who are uncommitted that are so firmly invested in the Democratic Party that they're participating in the primary process. North Carolina, 88,900 votes. Kamala Harris lost North Carolina by 191,933 votes. You have to understand, no, it's not. She would have still lost PA. Dude, you're missing the point. Every single uncommitted voter wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris anyway. Okay? You don't look at the primary to look at the primary to the general election number is not 1-to-1. Okay? Who participates in the Democratic Party's primary process, especially when there is no candidate? Who participates in that process? People who are registered diehard Democratic Party supporters. I know this because I did door knocking I canvassed and I door knocked during the primaries for Bernie Sanders. And what I saw in that process was a shit ton of Bernie supporters who simply were not going out to actually vote for Bernie Sanders. They didn't even know the primary was happening. Most people don't know the primary process is happening when it's happening, okay? There were people who fucking Googled, did Joe Biden drop out on November 4? Okay? The fuck are you talking about? Most people don't even know the general election is happening. There are people who ask me, can I vote tomorrow on Tuesday? Can I vote the rest of this week on Tuesday? There are people that I know. I'm telling you, man, you guys are so locked in and laser focused on the political process that you cannot imagine what the average fucking median voter is thinking or their depth of knowledge when it comes to this sort of stuff. Okay? Understand that if there are 10,000 primary voters that say in the primaries, I'm not voting for Biden, that means there's probably 100,000 voters who are not going to vote for Biden. It's indicative of a much larger number of people. That means you lost 10,000 die-in-the-wool, die-hard Democratic Party supporters in the process. Now, we don't know how many of these uncommitted voters turned around and voted for Kamala Harris. We don't know how many of them turned around and voted for Donald Trump. We don't know how many of them turned around and voted third party. And we don't know how many of them didn't vote. But what you have to understand is that, like I said, if 10,000 voters that are diehard registered Democrats who are participating in the Democratic primary when there's not a fucking single candidate out there, that means there's probably 100,000 people that are just simply not voting. Primary versus general turnout since 2000. Primaries turnout 27%, general 57%. New Jersey primary election turnout 11%, 37 in the general. In the presidential, there were multiple candidates. Primary election turnout in Illinois 23%, general 61%. Do you understand? No, that was 2022, and I'm going back to 2020 numbers now for that reason, because that was midterms. Montana, primary election turnout 45%, general election 72%. It is at the very least twice the amount. Okay? Same principle in 2016. It doesn't matter. Michigan primary election in 2016, 18% turnout, 63% in the general. New York primary election turnout, 19%, 50% in the general. New Jersey primary, 20%, 57% in the general. Do you understand? Show turnout rates for 2020? I did. Even in states that do matter, okay? Even in states that do matter, it is at least double those numbers, okay? People don't vote in the primaries. So if there's 10,000 people who didn't vote in the primaries that are uncommitted, there's probably fucking 20,000 people that are not voting in the general. It's that simple, okay? Ugh. That's not double, Hassan. In certain places, it's double. In certain places, it's fucking 10x. It doesn't matter, especially how the primary process works. By a certain point, it's already packed up. So that lowers turnout for the primary process even further. Okay? My point is, there is never a moment where more people vote in the primary and then less people vote in the general. That's not a thing that happens. Okay? I love that Neek skit is back and immediately pisses me off. Would Harris really have won with Gaza? Because Trump seems to have won by a lot. Oh my God. Look at these fucking numbers, dude. Look at these fucking numbers. And this is not the only number to look at. I think at this point, if you're refusing to reckon with the number of people that either didn't vote for Kamala Harris, stayed at home, or voted for Donald Trump, or voted for fucking Jill Stein or whatever third party due to Gaza in key states that Kamala had to win, you are purposely deluding yourself. There was 1 million different polls that were conducted on this issue, okay? Even by pure primary numbers, the uncommitted voters in Michigan would have captured Kamala Harris the W. That's it. No, it's not just 2 states, chatters. Oh my God. You're looking at raw numbers. Not every single person that voted uncommitted in the primary didn't vote for Kamala Harris. That's not what I'm saying at all. Why is this so fucking hard for people to understand? Why are you saying XQC? Ugh. Progressives in the huge Muslim community in Michigan thought Harris was too pro-Israel, so they refused to vote for her. Now that Trump won, Israel's preparing to annex the West Bank. Biting off your nose to spite your face is a thing. Yeah, this guy's such a fucking piece of shit. Because, guess what? He didn't give a fuck about Gaza to begin with. Clearly. Like, why are you acting like you gave a fuck? Senior allies of Harris pushed the campaign in the DNC to have a Palestinian speaker on stage at the August convention, trying to further the goodwill Harris had earned from the Arab and Muslim communities furious over Gaza, but they were denied. Going over the script ahead of time, Harris said, "We missed our fundraising deadline." Then she stopped and told aides, "We can't lie to people by saying they missed their fundraising goals," according to 4 people with knowledge of the conversation. One junior level aide later had to tell Harris's campaign chief of staff the truth. The campaign had missed its fundraising goals. There had been rumblings about the financial situation since September, said one Democrat. Another said the campaign had missed its fundraising goal in September after money slowed in August, and the boon from the convention wasn't as high as the campaign expected. How wrong could everyone have gotten this when I just saw it with my own two damn eyes? And in spite of all signs pointing to momentum shifting, the early gains made by the campaign in terms of fundraising, when they responded to public pressure, I said this at the last night of the Democratic National Convention. I said, these guys are delusional. But hey, don't listen to me. What the fuck do I know? I fucking said it. Bro, the left is just a bunch of crazies now. The majority is tired of it. I know, dude. Leftist figures like Liz Cheney and Kamala Harris need to be excised from the party. You're right. These fucking loony bin lefties like Liz Cheney, all the Clinton administration, and all the Obama administration consultants need to be cut out. You're so right, brother. We need real Americans out here. We need real Americans who care about American citizens. We need real Americans who are going to sit back and say, enough is enough. No more fucking wars. Why are we spending billions of dollars on overseas operations to advance the interests of corporate profits, to advance the interests of the goddamn defense industry so that a bunch of Raytheon executives can turn profit, okay? When we got 650,000 homeless people in this fucking country right now that are sleeping outside. Why the fuck are we letting these goddamn loony leftists like Liz Cheney with their permanent war attitude, these loony leftists like Kamala Harris with their permanent war perspectives, run the goddamn country? I especially hate the likes of avowed loony leftist, radical Marxist Richie Torres going to Michigan to be like, no, you don't understand. The most leftist position you can get is permanently funding Israel's genocide in Gaza. Or fucking Bill Clinton being like, yeah, no, you don't understand. Like, the Bible says Israel belongs to Israel, and therefore all the Palestinians there have to be killed. These loony leftists must go. Okay? That's right. Loony leftists like William Jefferson Clinton. I'm done. I'm done with these guys. This article was on CNN, uploaded 2 minutes ago.
Inside the campaign for Kamala Harris as Democrats continue their infighting over her defeat in the presidential election. New reporting from Notus, N-O-T-U-S, a great website, suggests that there's finger pointing and blame gaming at all levels of the Harris campaign over the campaign strategy or lack thereof, decision making or lack thereof, mismanagement or management of funds. Let's bring in Jasmine Wright, who's covering this story for Notus. Also with us, CNN's chief national affairs correspondent, Jeff Zeleny. So, Jasmine, per usual, great reporting. You have this great story describing the Harris campaign as a disorganized operation that was more reflective of Joe Biden than of Kamala Harris. She was unable to capitalize on that initial voter enthusiasm. She was unable to make a clear distinction between herself and Joe Biden. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of examples into this piece about how the initial campaign under Joe Biden was put together. The fact that it was based off of the fact that, you know, they may not have a lot of voter enthusiasm, not a lot of volunteers, maybe even not a lot of donor money. And so they were kind of scrappy, but that meant that it was difficult for people, once Harris replaced Biden, to scale up and really capture that enthusiasm and capture all that money. We know when Biden was on the ticket, it was difficult for them to staff up. People didn't want to work for Joe Biden, and people didn't want to move to Wilmington. And so that left in people's minds that we talked to, people in these really key senior roles, potentially 4 or 8 years too junior for that very specific role. And so when it came to the vice president being on top, they were having problems fundraising. We reported that they missed a fundraising deadline in September after revising that a couple times based off of the projections that they made when she made a lot of money coming into it, but also some of the problems with the culture, particularly around folks. One person said that they kind of had a gallows humor, a 9-to-5 work mentality, and that they were very hesitant to take advice from Harris aides that the vice president brought in once she topped the ticket. And of course, there was just a lot of criticism over the campaign leadership and what the data and analytics team were doing and what research that they were actually looking at to form their analysis of the race.
So a lot of the aides you spoke to blamed the campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, who wanted to own all decision making, they say, for the campaign. At Biden's request, you write, Harris largely kept his pre-existing campaign infrastructure, as you just noted, including keeping O'Malley Dillon instead of bringing in her own campaign manager. And aides that you spoke with said she created a bottleneck, resisted advice, even withheld key polling information. Is there unanimity that it's her fault, per se?
Well, I think ultimately what I talked to is that people blame Joe Biden. They blame Joe Biden for staying on the ticket too long. They blame Joe Biden in his initial campaign for being unable to recognize just how deeply upset Americans were about the economy, about immigration, and about some of these other larger issues. But they say that these issues under the hood at the campaign, right, it's kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. They may have not lost the race for them, but they certainly did not help. And they feel very, very seriously that it did not put the vice president in the best position to win when she changed over in July.
Certainly not. You only have 107 days to run for president. Jeff, House Speaker, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi certainly sounds like she is blaming a lot of this on Joe Biden for not getting out of the race back in 2022, 2023, when he could have allowed a thriving Democratic process, a strong primary and caucus process, somebody who could separate themselves from Joe Biden.
Look, this was always going to be difficult given the inflation headwind.
Now, people say only 107 days, but like Donald Trump literally fundraised less, spent half of his money on fucking all the legal shit that he had to deal with, and he still clobbered the Democrats, okay? Yeah, he started 2 years ago. If you think that his situation looked good 2 years ago, you're out of your fucking mind. Trump had 4 years. He started 2 years ago, but he didn't actually fucking gain momentum until like the last 100 days as well. I mean, before then he was clapping because Biden was ass, but I see MSM being a huge reason why so many Americans have been disgusted with the left.
But many people agree with Speaker Pelosi. If you look back to the midterms of 2022, that is something that emboldened President Biden, that he thought the message from the midterms, where Democrats did not get blown out, that they thought that was a sign that there was some sort of need or market for him. So that was one thing. That, there's no question the timing and his decisions really affected everything. Also, an over-reliance on abortion rights. That was also a lesson mislearned. A variety of people we've talked.
No one will look at this. Literally, no one will look at this. They don't believe this at all. Everyone in the media is like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. No one. And I mean no one. No one gives a shit. No one cares about the truth. Everyone is just simply apologize for what? Apologize for what? You guys realize I know what this study is, right? I read it when it first came out. That the anti-trans panic ads were ineffective, according to polling from Data for Progress. That it doesn't matter. That people are like, yeah, I don't really give a shit about this stuff. I now fully agree with what you were saying about the GOP's anti-trans ad strategy. The $140 million wasn't to motivate people to vote, but to make the Democrat establishment agree with their position in the first place, an investment into the future of controlled opposition. Yes. Because Democrats are so primed by whatever the fuck conservatives say about them, it does not matter. Like, Republicans tomorrow could be like, Democrats want to kill every firstborn male child in this country, okay? And run $100 million worth of ads saying that. And the Democrats would turn around and be like, you know, we lost because we wanted to kill every firstborn male child in the country. And we really got to take a cold, hard look at ourselves. It's like, what are you saying? No one said that. Like, why? What do you mean? No one gives a shit about it. No one said it. Why are you being gaslit by the dumbest people on the planet? It's so fucking stupid. Just catching up on this pro-Israel rally at DC's baseball stadium that undershot expected attendance by 90%, 95%, and oh man. So the marketing and press emails promised a smaller but still substantial number. One predicted nearly 40,000. Another said 30,000. But as the rally began in the afternoon, it became clear that the bar had been set far too high. In the end, perhaps 2,000 people showed up. Where are all the Jews out there anyway? The MC, actor, and comedian Tiffany Haddish said in the middle of the event as rain drizzled on empty seats on a chilly day. Where are all the Jews at? We will never see any paid consultants say, it's all my fault. I blew $900 million. You probably should never hire me again. I mean, I get that. God, Tiffany Haddish is so gross. Yeah, Gretchen blew her goodwill on this issue to go to this. I know. The study was wrong. Clearly, the anti-trans ads worked on the DNC. Yes. The anti-trans panic ads did not work on average Americans. It was not like a major motivator for them to go out and vote. But it did work on the one group that matters the most. The consultant class and the fucking media. It worked on my uncle, too. He also believes the trans ads were so successful. And there is no way I can get to him. Okay? There's just no fucking way that I can convince anyone over the age of 45 that this anti-trans panic shit was not prescient. And now it might. Because the Democrats are also going to fucking lean into this shit. And they have been. It's so crazy. Oh. every facet of media is like all collectively doing the same thing over and over again. They did this with the crime stuff. I was like, look at the data. There is no extra amount of crime that's happening. You guys are fucking losing your minds. I was right, but it doesn't matter. People still believe that crime is completely out of control. There's crime happening literally in every facet of society. There's just an unimaginable sea of murders. Every American in the suburbs, if you're a white man in the suburbs, you're going to get executed. Sorry. You're going to get decapitated by an urban style guerrilla. Okay. It does not matter. We have urban guerrilla warfare happening right now as we speak. Okay. We have created units of militias armed to the fucking gills, and they're doing, okay, they're trans, they're armed, okay? They have machetes, they have AK-47s, and they're coming to the fucking suburbs. It's happening. Sorry, they're going to come for you. It's happening. I've been convinced. I've seen it. I've seen it in the media. I think that's what's going on. It doesn't matter that it's not happening in my neighborhood. If you come ask me, I will tell you, well, it's not happening here, but I'm sure it's happening elsewhere. Same with immigration. Immigrants are all coming from Guatemala. There's 12 billion Guatemalans that are literally armed to the teeth as well. Okay, they're joining the instead of the transnational gangs, we now have national trans gangs, okay, that are engaging in urban guerrilla warfare alongside the Guatemalan migrants. The Haitians are now joining. They're eating the cats and dogs, okay? And the Guatemalans are here, and they're here to stay. Why do I believe this? Have I seen it with my own eyes? No. But I feel like it's happening. Why? Because television told me it's happening. Oh. That's it. That's it. This isn't fake news. You're almost 34, so you can't mess around anymore. Yeah. Yeah, one day I'm going to find myself lost in the fucking sauce. I'm going to watch like one AI video and believe it, and then it's over. Oh. This sucks. I've already had some psycho MAGA guys try to get me fired from my job just for being trans. They had to ban him from the store for repeatedly harassing them via phone. And that was 2023. Ugh. I'm sorry, chatter. It did happen in my neighborhood, and now my neighbors have lost their minds. It was my neighbor's fault, though. Left their doors unlocked with their keys and purse in the car, so they literally just hopped in and drove off.